You're listening to The Linked Legal. I'm Anthony Albrecht, but you can call me Tony. We don't need to stand on ceremony here, do we? Today's episode, I am sharing the audio from the first group coaching call we did in the Linked Legal Vendors membership. That's a mouthful, isn't it? I'll give you a little bit of background here before I throw you into the audio. But I've spent almost 2.5 years now building Contender as a LinkedIn ghostwriting agency where the vast majority of my clients have been attorneys. I came into this year wanting to figure out how to help more people, and this membership, the way it's unfolding, is looking like how we're going to take a crack at that, me and my team. And at this point, we have a group of lawyers that's about 20 through a soft launch in February. We've now got a group for vendors off the ground as well that we soft launched a couple weeks ago, and you're hearing the first call with that group. And then expect we're going to have a group for law students off the ground here in the next month. And my thinking here is, yes, I want to help people get more attention with what they do on LinkedIn. The way I think about this, what's more important is that you're learning the skills for how to show up in a magnetic way online. And there's a lot to that. And it's something that it extends not just beyond LinkedIn to other social platforms. I would say it has a very real influence and impact on how we show up out here in the real world as well. On this call, you're going to hear a couple people who've become very good friends of mine, Ron Lance and Charlie Mann, people I've met out in the real world. Jacqueline Mackey has sent me coffee beans from Honduras. She's on this call. Marissa Capozzi's a legal recruiter from up here in Canada. She actually connected me with somebody who became a team member, Micaiah Post. And then I connected with her through her brother, Nick, and he's picking me up from the airport in Phoenix next week when I'm out there for the Fireproof Summit. The larger point here is I want to help people build skills, and more than that, I want to help people build a dynamic network. Is the ability to get attention is great. It's really important. But more important than that is the ability to direct attention in a way that influences and impacts how people make decisions. And to do that, you need to be building relationships. That's just the name of the game. And so my intention here with the memberships is to build a sort of network within the network, where people who have a lot of the same problems when it comes to who they're trying to talk to and what they're trying to accomplish out here, there's a lot of the same goals and really some of the same interests that those people that you can naturally come together and share best practices. So this is the first call here. It's going to be kind of a linky love fest. I hope you enjoy. I'll stop talking.
I know. So true. Has it started getting warm there yet?
No, not really. I mean, I guess 50s. Hey, Charlie. Like 50s, something like that. Snow's gone.
Nice. It's like almost 80 degrees here today, or it's gonna be almost 80.
Nah, we've got a little ways to go for that.
No thanks. Hey, Matt, good to see you, man. Oh, you are muted. Let's unmute you. Hey, Jacqueline, good to see you.
Good morning.
How's it going?
Super good.
Love that enthusiasm. Charlie, how'd the trip go?
It was good. It was a good, good speaking, fun to be in front of a crowd. I mean, I love doing that stuff. So Jay's assembled a pretty good event overall. I'll be curious to see if they can break through that sort of 70 to 90 person event ceiling that some people can get stuck at. But yeah,
Right on.
I think it's just, I think it's second or third year doing it. I think third, maybe. I don't know.
What
Good
was
event,
the
though.
event?
What's that, Matt?
What was the event?
10 Golden Rules Live. So Jay Berkowitz, he's out of Florida. It's a digital marketing company, 10 Golden Rules, and he's started putting on annual live event.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we actually have quorum. What are all you people doing here? I didn't expect this kind of I didn't expect this much company. Hey, Amanda, how's it going? Oh, you're muted too. Chris, is this automatic? Like when you jump in, you're automatically muted initially, and that's what happens?
I turned mine off.
I don't know.
Success. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, gang. So y'all are some of the first people I ain't really opened the doors on this thing yet. Like this is not a thing that somebody can really join at the moment. It's gonna be my intention here. I'm not gonna jabber at you very long, but my intention coming into this year was to figure out how to be of use to more people. My ghostwriting roster has remained small. It's never been more than 23 humans that I'm working with at any given time. And I've gotten to a point where that's great. We're rolling along there. But coming into this year, we closed the ghostwriting roster where we're not really taking anybody new on. And I wanted to dedicate more of my attention, time, energy to figuring out how to help more people. And I had an idea for that. That was basically what we were calling a content membership. And my idea was going to be we basically create like the biggest, most dynamic, I hesitate to use the word community. As Christy knows, I've had a standing order that I am to be shot on sight if I ever say I want to start another digital community. So that is not what this is. You people are not in my community. That said, it may look a lot like a community. But what became clear pretty quickly is needed to sort of divide things. Like we started one basically with lawyers, practicing lawyers a month ago. And then as I'm going along, my whole thing is around, sure, LinkedIn, but bigger than that, let's say social selling, like how you inspire people to take the action that you would like them to take in digital space. And then also what you might call more branding, or how to be magnetic online, to put yourself out there in a way that people are just naturally drawn to you. And it became clear that I've had kind of three different groups of folks in mind. There are practicing lawyers. There are people who sell to lawyers and law firms in the legal industry. And then there are law students. So I've now kind of trifurcated. Is trifurcate a word, Charlie? Is that a word, Charlie? Yeah. Okay.
If not, it is now. So who cares?
Perfect. Yes.
If bifurcate is, trifurcate has to be.
That actually,
Tony, I'm going to ask you to list the furcations up through 10 for us real quick, if you don't mind.
quadfurcate. You were just trying to get me to say sexification. That's just you dirty dog, you.
Trifurcate is the word.
Excellent. Fantastic. So there you go.
Christy,
There's
Christy,
Bryce.
I just want to apologize ahead of time for how much I'm going to get him off the rails on occasions. That's on me. I own that as my part in this, and I apologize.
As long as it's entertaining, do what you got to do, Charlie.
Yeah, Chris, this is just the story of Christy's life. Um, so all that to be said, um, ended up dividing things out where, so we've got the lawyers. I set this one up for what I'm calling vendors, broadly speaking. And then we're going to be launching one for law students later in this spring. And my goal for each of these, since each of these three groups has sort of some of the principles and the skills are all the same regardless of who you are. The specific problems folks are trying to solve tend to be different. So we'll see how this goes, but it's going to be a combination of what I'm thinking of as like support and accountability, and then some training components, which are more like our boot camps trainings, our cohorts, and then we'll have some like tools and products that are coming later down the road. But so all that to say, I appreciate y'all being here, for taking me up in the offer to join me. And my intention with these sessions is that this one's going to be a little different since it's the first one and we're laying some groundwork. But my intention here is that this is some of like what's on your mind, what's catching you up on or tripping you up on like there. What are you noticing out there? What are your issues, challenges? And we unpack this stuff in detail for this first one, and particularly since there's so many folks. Hey, Jess, good to see you as well. Hey. There we could start with I want to just run around the room, and we typically won't do intros. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, because again, it's not a community, so we don't. While it's not a community, this is very much about networking. Like we are, I think everybody in this room understands the power of networking and the power of building stronger connections with other people in your network. And I think maybe we've got a couple people who aren't necessarily familiar with other people in this room. So I want to run around the room. I want to know who you are. I want to know where you are. And then I want to know one thing you're celebrating this week. Let's leave it at that. I was going to add a fourth thing, but we can't count that high. And just Christy, I'll throw it to you first. Christy is my sister and my number 2 here at Contender, so y'all will be seeing her around. And then after we get through this stuff, then I'm gonna open it up and we're going to talk like what's on your mind out in the Linky land and what you've been wrestling with. Chrissy.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm the COO at Contender, and I have the enviable task of keeping Tony on track, largely, which is lots of fun and very easy all the time. And something I'm celebrating this week is the beautiful weather. It's been sunny in like 70s and 80s every day. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, and it's just bringing me back to life. And am I passing it?
Please.
I'm going to pass it on to Amanda.
Hi, everyone. I really don't know much of anyone. So, I'm Amanda. I started on LinkedIn in what am I? I'm so sick. I'm in outside of Philadelphia, and I'm a legal writing coach. I don't know if that was the question. The first thing that popped to my mind that I'm celebrating doesn't have to do with LinkedIn, so I hope that's okay. But we may, cross fingers, have bought a house in Rhode Island. So I'm like, just every day has been dealing with stuff like that. So that's really fun. We've wanted to for a long time, and we finally found one.
Excellent. That's awesome. And Amanda, that's a really good point. Yes, saying like, who you are in terms of what you do and where you fit into the whole legal profession, that's a good idea as well. Amanda has done an awesome job of. Hey, Amanda, you're like one of the biggest sort of linky legal influencers in America. I think you really are. You really are.
I don't know. It goes in waves. Partly because I've been just trying to figure out my own identity, because when I started, I was really just doing this on a whim. I was tutoring law. I had one law student I was tutoring, and I thought, this was during the pandemic. I'd never done LinkedIn other than through law firm marketing people. And someone was like, you got to do social media marketing. And I literally looked that up. What is that? What is branding? So I mean, I was clueless. I had 400 connections, and starting from, I mean, and they're still lawyer connections I used to work with. I stopped practicing in 2016. So I didn't know anybody who posted. So I did not have one person who I knew posted. I did have my husband who would like all of my posts. That was part of our marriage commitment. It was just but other than that, really, nothing. And so I also had a lot of time. I'm very fortunate that I'm not trying to support a family by my business. So I invested a lot. I did things like read, Richard's algorithm reports. I involved with John Asperian, who had a group in London. He was my business coach for a while, done a lot of things. So then I wrote a book for law students, but I really make my money legal writing coach for lawyers. So I'm sort of trying to figure out who I am and what I do still.
My hope is that we'll maybe be able to help shorten the closing the gap on that model. I think
Okay.
you're gonna get there. Yeah.
And I
Charlie.
don't really want to grow. I mean, growing is like irrelevant to me, other than just how I feel. A typical day of post tanks, and then you're like, you get a good one, and suddenly it changes your mood. And I'm trying to stop even looking because it's so dumb.
Truth. Charlie Mann.
I'm Charlie Mann. I am based out of the DC region in Northern Virginia. I have now actually two companies, a coaching company for law firms called Law Firm Alchemy. That's a traditional one-on-one mastermind and level coaching programs. I also have a second company that we just hired our copywriters for, email marketing company called Red Kraken Creative that does email newsletters for law firms. And then win-wise, so I'm really excited for both my kiddos. One of them, my 7-year-old, she's playing up a year in soccer, in like competitive travel soccer. And she just went through a tournament this last weekend, played as a guest player, played in the top quartile of minutes on her team, and was part of them winning their bracket in the overall tournament. So that was really cool. Right after that, went and saw my older kid play in her basketball all-star weekend. So really just excited dad with all that stuff.
Nice. You can kick it, Charlie.
Let's go with Jacqueline.
Well, hello, I'm Jackie, and my whole world is nursing. And so I work specifically with plaintiff attorneys on med mal, PI type cases from start to finish. And I met Tony on LinkyLand, and I am so thankful to be part of this group. I mean, I need some autographs here. Ron Ladd, come on, Charlie. Tony, thank you for the invite. This is great.
Oh, that's very sweet. I will. I'll send you one of my Ron Latz autographs. I won't even charge you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ron Latz, what do you have to say for yourself?
If I can get it to unmute. Thank you, Jacqueline. That's very kind of you. It still feels very weird when anybody says anything about that or that they found me. It's still weird. But I'm Ron. I'm based in New York State, about an hour outside of the city. Quick train ride into Grand Central. I run and own Legal Phoenix. We are a legal marketing consulting and fractional CMO shop. So one half of my clients, I'm doing all consulting and advisory work. And then on the other half, I become their fractional CMO, and they essentially outsource that entire function for me to manage on their behalf. and excited. Even though my birthday was 2.5 months ago, I have 6-year-old twins, and they brought the flu home for Christmas and New Year's. So this weekend, my wife and I are going into the city and doing a little staycation for my birthday, which was the first week of January. So we finally had time to go back out and do something. It's been yeah, they took us out for a long time, and then just the kids, they just petri dishes, they just kept doing it, and then so yeah, we're finally doing that. So I'm excited for that, and I'll throw one other one. I got a new employee, number 3, starting next week, which I'm really excited about. So pumped.
Are the twins boys or girls or one of each?
It's one of each, Matt. One of each. So me and my wife, we are done. Called it quits, and that's why we're staying. We're sticking with it.
Stuff. Matt, how about you?
So my name is Matt Neal, and I live in California. I am business development executive for the Masters Conference, and my wife is the operations director. My cousin started it, and the thing that I'm the most stoked about is, like, I love to execute. I just I hate it when I'm waiting on other people to do something. And so with League of Week coming up, I've been waiting on all of these other players to like get me their thoughts, and I'm setting up email cadences for like a lot of the sponsors for Masters, and like I was running with my wife with the dogs this morning, and I was telling her I'm so fired up. Like today's going to be such a big win for me because I can just do my thing, right? Like and it's I'm like a total learner. I'm in active campaign. I've never used Constant Contact, and so I basically have to manage a bunch of people's different stuff today. So I have to get into Constant Contact and totally learn how to set up the same sequences that I have set up in other places, and figure out what their layouts look like and stuff like that. But I love challenges. I love stuff where I like have to figure it out. I love being under a deadline. I feel like deadlines really push me where I'm like, okay, I'm going to cram. I can do this. And so the only person that I'm waiting on now is myself because everyone has handed me like enough ammunition that I can load the gun and go hunting. And that has me like super fired up. I'll probably I'm also the dad of 14 and 15, about to be 15 and 16-year-old girls, which that is like God makes every kid totally different, but understanding the teenage female mindset is so that I normally commit the whole weekend to that and don't work, but I'm gonna probably cram this weekend and do some work. But I love my kids. They're literally why I've built the things that I've built over the last 20 years is because of them. And same thing, they're in competitive sports. I love watching them do things that I didn't teach them to do, like paint, where I'm like, dude, you just painted something bomb. How did that happen? Who taught you? You know?
Brilliant. Beautiful stuff. Thanks, dude. Jess, what you got?
Hi, everybody, and thank you, Tony, for the invite. I'm Jess Argus. I am coming to you from Austin today. And so one of the reasons why I look like this is that I did not calculate the Eastern time versus Central time. So you get me right after my walk in the park today. So I'm a high performance coach for lawyers and law firms, meaning that not in the hustle sense, but in the sense of closing the gap between performance and potential. And so I've been a lawyer for over 22 years. I left practice in September to start my own full-time coaching and speaking business. And in addition to that, my perspective on high performance comes not just from my experience as a lawyer, both in-house and in law firms on both sides of the V, but also as a former and undefeated MMA fighter and professional coach. So I use a lot of the athletic mindset, sports psychology, and neuroscience when I'm coaching lawyers and executives. Oh, and what I'm proud of this week. This week I am very proud of, and it's one of the things that I am working on. I gave a free hour session to a lawyer who is in between jobs for his strategy for his next job search, and he just messaged me that he's got a big day of interviews at an in-house company he's very excited about, and wanted some more tips. And so I am happy that this time I'm going to present him with options to pay me. So working on that transition, but I'm proud of myself that I didn't immediately just give him a bunch more deliverables for free.
Nice. Yeah, we could call that a win. I like that. I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm growing. I'm learning.
Absolutely. Most of the people in this room have spent a lot of their, I think I could speak, like working in more corporate environments before starting our own thing. So yeah, there are a lot of conversations around here about how we take all that experience and expertise and figure out how to package it and present it in a way that we can build our own thing. That's awesome. Marissa, I see you down there. How's it going?
I'm here. Sorry, I'm driving. I am doing a bad job at life today. I didn't know what time this thing was. I'm so sorry. I'm going to put my camera on in 1 sec. I've been a legal recruiter for 400 years. People say, like, why do you do legal recruitment? It's the worst. But I don't know. It's just sort of all I've done. And so, wait, here's the video. Here I am. I just parked. Yeah, so I've been a legal recruiter for, I think, about 20 years, and I just started my own company kind of in January. And I'm actually just on my way to a lunch right this minute to celebrate that, like, we're actually doing a good job and someone's paid us, which is, like, I feel like really good start. Yeah, and I'm just happy to be here. I have sort of a different problem with LinkedIn, is that we're not really doing business development. It's more just trying to find good humans, which is the hardest part of my life. So yeah, but happy to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Marissa. All right. So quick rundown of some of the characters in our room. Yeah, I guess Marissa, you provide a nice segue into the conversation where there are a number of problems that we run into as vendors selling in the space that pertain to who we're talking to and who we're trying to get in front of. A lot of us don't exactly know who we're trying to get in front of, and then once you get a clear sense of who that is, then that's a whole nother challenge of trying to figure it out. And so I'm going to stop jabbering and kind of open it up, where basically this is just a open time. To be honest, like, there are more humans in this room than I expected. I think we'll be able to keep the ball moving pretty well. My intention is to cover a fair amount of ground. And we actually have a few people who are really good at LinkedIn in here. So while I'm, I have my little corner of the internet that I claim and own, I do not consider myself even necessarily like the best at LinkedIn in this room. So we've got I'm really excited about the different sources of expertise we have here to help one another kind of improve our games. So with that being said, if anybody has something on their mind that's been bothering you, or that you've been struggling with, or a question that you've been wrestling with when it comes to LinkedIn, content, personal branding,
Can I ask
How
you
does
something about the homework,
no?
please?
Okay, fine.
So the homework was be generous, tell a story, don't start with an announcement, start with a secret, and then give details. And then fill in the background. And I LinkedIn has been one of those places where I at first I was like, I don't want to build a brand. I don't want my signature to be some Tony Robbins famous thing, but now I'm seeing the value so much as far as the human connection. And that was really why I was drawn to you and this group, because I want to show up authentically. And I also want to be able to generate that magnetism so that people are using the solution that I bring. And so, just briefly, I'll give you a for instance. So my identity was stolen. Somebody created my actual ATM card, and we deal, one of the masters conferences, we deal with cybersecurity data breach. And so I'm like, doing the homework, and I want to post on LinkedIn. I always want to bring my true self. I want to tell a story. I'm not necessarily really good at that because I always lead with the punchline where I'm like, have you ever had your identity stolen? Doesn't that suck? And you're like, dude, tie in with the emotional aspects of what you were dealing with. I felt nervous, I felt sad, I felt this. And so when it comes to like building that post, you gave us in our homework, these are the seven ways that you process that post so that you can create that magnetism. And so now I'm like, okay, cool. Dealing with my teens and modern data, they are literally on every chat platform. When I'm like trying to track down what they're doing online, it's rabbit trail after rabbit trail. If they're not in their chat, then they're on Instagram chat, they're on this. I want to be able to tell these stories that are real and genuine and affecting my life day to day, where I'm like, hey, I had my identity stolen. I want to be able to build a story around that. And it's what I took from the homework is like, start with the situation, give away a couple of secrets, and then end with the punchline. Don't lead with the punchline. And so I wanted you to unpack that a little bit, because I'm like, I have these stories that I want to tell, but I want them to resonate with people. I want it to draw them in, and I want the tagline to be, hey, we can help you with cybersecurity and data breach. Come to this thought leadership, so that is the punchline. And so I'm just like trying to come up with a format for putting my voice out there in an authentic way. And I feel like you kind of gave us the skeleton in the homework, but now I'm like, okay, now I need to sit down and write this. So what should my process be? And normally I would just take audio notes of myself and throw it into Chat GPT and say, hey, can you make this clear so other people can understand it? And then post something. So I'm like looking for a format for my weekly posts.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. And um, Amanda, just the Matt's referring to basically the weekly content drops, which are based, so they're part of this membership. This baseline membership is that each week I'm sending out of a detailed, actionable lesson that relates to content, social selling, branding, and I'll break things down in detail. Like the one Matt's referring to is how to construct an announcement post that doesn't suck. Right. So
So you'll send it to me, or make sure I have it.
We will loop you back at, yeah. So this is part of the bifurcation or the trifurcation process is, so I've been doing these for the last month, and now we're based for the lawyer group, and now we're basically like plugging y'all in, so you're like getting all the goods. So yeah, we'll follow up with like where that stuff lives, because part of it is like you can go back and kind of look at the different lessons, and we're going to be organizing them in a way that's going to be hopefully user friendly and and more helpful. But so Matt, that question about how do you do it? There are, because when I hear what you're saying there, part of this is just a matter of reps. Again, like that's just the way it is, right? That we have to like get practice on how to tell these stories in a different way, how to make LinkedIn posts, particularly for anybody who's been posting on LinkedIn at all over time, that there is just this aspect of, like on my podcast yesterday that I put out, is this idea of, I was talking about free throws and how we all learn to shoot free throws in one way. Like the best free throw shooter of all time is Rick Barry, a guy who shot granny style. Like that's how, and like, why doesn't everybody shoot granny style? It's because you look stupid doing it, right? That's literally why people don't do it, right? And so there's an aspect here of like, it's shooting granny style a little, where there's some discomfort from putting yourself out there in a way that people might go, or at least we feel like people might look at that and go, "Ugh." So I'd say there's a certain element of that where it's just a matter of reps. That said, so that's like the mindset piece of it. The actual like construction, the storytelling piece of it. So you've got a conference. It's on cybersecurity. What we're doing here is like, it still works. What comes to mind is that thing of what that one post that became a meme, the like, what asking my girlfriend to marry me taught me about B2B sales. Like, we want to, like, that kind of stuff is like, so yours is connected enough that I'm okay. I'm not going to put you in that category, but I'd say watch yourself, Matt. You're getting close to that line where it's like, what having my identity stolen taught me about B2B events. But I think you're still good in what you're laying out here. I'm not going to keep jabbering at you for another 3 minutes. I'm going to be succinct. The trick to this thing, actually, my content drop that's going out today, this afternoon, talks about the sort of the shape of posts, and I juxtapose what, let's say, an essay would have been in college, where it's like you start broad and then you get more detailed as you go, and then you get more broad as you come out, like from intro to meat of it to that. And when it comes to something like the post you're talking about, I think this can be shaped if we zoom in real far, where it's like you start really specific, get a little more general, gets more specific, then you get more general. So it's kind of like, by that I mean, when we think about the stories, we don't need to tell the story chronologically. Like, we think about, like you were saying, leading with have you ever had your identity stolen? It's that broad, general intro sentence, right? And the biggest challenge for any of us when it comes to LinkedIn is how we stand out, how we cut through the noise. And the hard truth is that generic stuff, general stuff that applies very broadly, has a really hard time cutting through the noise. Right? So that's I'd say those sorts of like general questions tend not to work very well. So on a story like that, we've got the story. Like you were saying, I advise people to lay it out, just talk it out, and then you go and you look at that. You say, what's the most interesting detail? And so probably the most interesting detail is something either if they did something clever in terms of how they stole your identity, like them actually creating a debit card. That's kind of interesting if they did that. That's kind of, or like how you felt like when you found out, right? So it's like picking that detail and then that's becoming your hook, right? So instead of starting at the beginning of the story, we're starting at the most interesting part of the story. We're turning that into the hook. And then when I said that we start specific, we go more general. Then we're laying a little bit of foundational work on like what the situation was. And then we're just kind of walking through this story until we get toward the like more general, like you were saying, hey, we've got this thing that's coming on, as your dismount. So like that announcement sort of piece being the dismount there. But it really, I think, regardless of the type of post we're talking about, when we're thinking about hooks, what I really hammer on is how can you make a hook that is specific? Like the more specific you can be, it's like specific details, numbers tend to work in hooks really well. So specificity, and then I also creating a sense of tension, if possible. So I appreciate that. Happy to, if you want to like whip out a draft, I'd happy to have a look at it and we can talk through it more, Matt. Appreciate it. Anybody else got something? Charlie Man.
Tony, that like my goal is get people from LinkedIn onto my email list. That has slowed a little bit recently in efficacy. I'm wondering if you have any suggestions on like within the dismount of the post, things to do on a profile or any other opportunities that you could see to improve getting people from LinkedIn to an email list.
How much do you do in terms of CTAs in posts or posts that are basically CTAs for that?
I've been wrestling back and forth with that recently, where I used to be pretty aggressive, like basically every single post. Then I started debating how much do I want to increase reach and then essentially cash in some of that reach on getting people to the email list. That doesn't seem to be as effective as it used to be. So I'm just trying to, I don't know, mix it up a little bit, try something new.
What can you give me a sense of like what it has been and then what it is now?
So in the past, we would
just
have
like
pulled
the general numbers.
Yeah. It wasn't extraordinary, but we pull in usually about 5 leads per week onto the email list from LinkedIn. Not a ton, but yeah, that up over the course of a year, 260 people. Great. It's closer now to 1 to 2 coming off of LinkedIn. And some weeks it appears to be basically 0 coming off the platform. I also have admittedly cut back my number of posts from probably 6 per week to closer to 3 or 4 per week. So maybe I just have to ramp everything back up. But I mean, my whole goal is I just want to get people off of LinkedIn onto the email list. So whatever best practices is what I really should be following.
What are when you were doing more CTAs, what did those look like?
The usual thing, a lot of it was back when a lot of us were doing I'm Charlie Mann and I work with entrepreneurial law firm owners to ... Would you like a free referral marketing playbook? Go to the link in my profile to pick that up today.
Okay. And you're saying that you've stopped doing that or you've cut down on doing that?
Cut down significantly. Probably there are stretches of maybe several weeks where I might not do that particular format of it at all. It just seems like it doesn't exist as much anymore. So I wasn't sure if I'm too heavily throttling reach or just read the situation.
Have you been noticing a substantial change in your reach or engagement? I haven't been seeing things for you.
No, but it's now been this way probably for this slowed down for 4, maybe 5 months at this point.
So, and how long has it been since you started doing less of the direct CTA or including that stuff?
Probably around the same. I guess. I'm sure, technically I could just look back on my post to find out, but I would guess maybe November of last year.
Charlie, I think you know the answer to this. You know,
What? Just hammer people with my CTA more?
do what you got you. Yeah, I mean it's so funny, isn't it?
Well, so and the reason is I had essentially switching out of that. My reach started climbing. I had more acceleration in followers and in overall engagement on posts. So I was using that to see if like I could ride a wave. Started integrating that CTA back in. Didn't really see the same results at first, and now I would say like I'm one of the things I'm generally interested in within this group is pressing reset a little bit on my overall LinkedIn strategy, which has been haphazard for most of this year.
Yeah, I love that word. And okay, so one of the problems that just about every one of us falls into or comes to this game with is the idea that if we want to build a business selling on LinkedIn, then the posting is kind of enough that we'll be able to, people will do what we want them to do by us just posting. And so, and you know, you are such, I am not a marketer compared to you in any respect. So I'm not telling you anything you don't need to know, but just the reminder that we have to tell people what we want them to do if we want them to do it. I'm awful at this. Like I almost never tell people what I want them to do. That's about to change, actually, related to this stuff we're talking about. So it's actually,
well, then
for
can you
me,
just go ahead and make that change, and I'll just watch what you're doing and follow
Yeah.
along with it.
Me too. Me too.
next week. Yeah, I
Perfect.
am gonna be, for the first time, really like ever, I'm gonna be basically like implementing what you might even call a disciplined strategy for growth, executed by my sister here largely. But it is something where the CTAs can feel a little, they could feel a little weird. You know, they could, and I guess we could draw a distinction between like that sort of like signature block at the bottom of posts. I think that's different than a CTA that's in the post, of where like a problem that a lot of us have is that we will turn every post into a sales post, right? A post where whatever we're talking about, we round it out of like, if you would like help with this, then click my link for a call, right? And people will get turned off by that in the way of, and by that I don't mean they get offended. I mean that it may just turn into something where it's like, okay, I know this person's going to sell to me at the end of this post, so I don't actually need to read the post. Whereas that signature block can be more, it's you got more leeway there. But I'd be interested to see you just like incorporate that back in and see if that fixes or like increases. I'm guessing it will, just based on what you're saying. And then, but then that bigger piece about the haphazard strategy is another thing that's so challenging, is that like we have a very difficult time pulling the lens back and assessing how things have changed from like we have a tendency to think that we're doing the same thing in terms of quality, in terms of like we should expect similar results over time. And the truth is there are so many variables, and you never know which variables are getting tweaked intentionally or even unconsciously in a way that can affect how things turn out. So let's tweak that, Charlie, and see if that does the uptick. And then I want the data on that. So that's
Sounds
really helpful.
reasonable.
All right, gang. So we've actually rolled through our first 60 minutes here. We're doing this again next Friday. Usually these are every other week. I'm going to be traveling the following week, so we're just going back to back. And if there's stuff you want me to prep like ahead of time, feel free to send questions, situations, challenges, and also, we're going to be getting more active in the Slack. That's going to be on the list of things to do. And also we'll have a proper, like when I'm talking about all the things that are happening, this thing is going to be taking more shape starting next week in a way that I swear it's all going to start making sense sooner rather than later. So thank you all for being here.
Can I pop in a quick request for like a future session, and maybe
Please.
we'll make life easy for you? Is if you see my post or maybe anyone's post who's on this group that you see and it's just like, oh, we could have done this better. If you want to screenshot it and like break it down for us in one of these upcoming sessions, that would be cool.
That's one of my favorite things to do in these
Sweet.
sessions.
Sweet.
So if you've got a post where, yeah, so like Matt, what you were saying. So yes, we'll definitely be doing some of that.
Cool.
Thanks a lot, gang. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Appreciate the community, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. I really appreciate your time. And if you're interested in joining us in the membership, or we're now recruiting for our April 1-5-10 boot camps, we're going to have 2 month-long cohorts. One is for lawyers. One is for vendors in the legal space. And they're both going to be aimed at developing the skills you need to become more magnetic on LinkedIn and online. You can find the links to both those things in the show notes. And for making it this far, you can use the code podcast to get 10% off your order. Our boot camp has a little application. We do some screening. We can't have the riffraff, in there. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to DM me or email me. I'll see you out there in the arena.